So somebody made a comment, and I looked it up, and actually I was right, believe it or not. I made a hanacha, a premise, that the reason why you cannot cook on Yom Kippur, as discussed in this week's Parshas, Emor, is because you can't eat. So my friend said to me, what do you mean? On Shabbos you're allowed to eat. It's a mitzvah to eat. But yet on Shabbos, you're not allowed to cook. So who said that the heter or issur of cooking has to do with the mitzvah of eating or the issur of eating? It doesn't seem to have any correlation. So I explained to him, the man's name happens to be Tzvi. Whether or not he's here in the room now, as we're filming or not, is for a different time. That it's actually a pasuk in the Torah. I guess he's not about Korah, so he didn't see. The Torah tells us, you're not allowed to do any work on this day, Yom Kippur, okay? Referring to even Ochar Nefesh, to cook for eating is no good. It's Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement. The Torah tells us, the next pasuk, because anybody who does not fast on this day gets courage. So you see clearly that the Torah puts together these two ideas. The Torah tells us that you're not allowed to cook on Yom Kippur. Ochar Nefesh is also on Yom Kippur. Why? The Torah tells us in the next pasuk, because there is a issur to eat on Yom Kippur. So you see that I was right, that there is a connection between these two in Yom. Not just that, according to this, we can explain a Gemara in Moed Katan. The Gemara tells us a fascinating thing that happened. The Gemara wouldn't say this. I would suggest you turning off my YouTube channel and never watching another show again. The Gemara says it. You don't have to be from within the Gemara. The Gemara tells us that in the time when the Beis HaMikdash Harishon, when the first Beis HaMikdash was inaugurated, you know what they did? They ate and they drank on Yom Kippur. There was a simcha, and the Gemara goes through a whole exegesis, a whole thing about how there had to be food. It's not just a Jewish thing nowadays. A simcha needs food. There was no simcha without food. There's a whole cheshbon, the whole thing. There was a simcha, and they actually ate and drank on Yom Kippur. Rashi brings, not only that, they actually cooked on Yom Kippur. I don't understand. You have a whole drush to tell you that you're allowed to eat on Yom Kippur, fine. But cook before Yom Kippur. Who said that they had to cook on Yom Kippur? According to what we said before, there's no kasha. Because once they were allowed to eat on Yom Kippur, Memela, they were allowed to cook on Yom Kippur. Because I was right when I said last week. I just guessed, I had no idea, that actually it's a pasuk in the Torah. Mamash a pasuk in the Torah, the juxtaposition of the two in Yonim. So you see clearly that my premise was right. Baruch Hashem, I was Makavan Tzvi, so I was right. So, and also, according to this, that's Pshat Rashi. That the reason why they were allowed to actually cook on Yom Kippur is because these two in Yonim go together. Once they were allowed to eat on Yom Kippur, Memela, they were allowed to cook on Yom Kippur, because the issur of cooking on Yom Kippur is only when you're not allowed to eat. Once you're allowed to eat, so Memela, you're allowed to cook. You can explain this how Pi Lomdus. Shabbos, B'klal. There's a mitzvah to eat, and there's an issur to cook. Nothing to talk about. On Yom Tov, Be'etzem, you can say Lomdus. Be'etzem, there is a heter to cook, because there's a mitzvah to eat. Yom Kippur, cannot let it eat. So Memela, it's also to cook. But once the issur of eating goes away, Memela, Yom Kippur goes back to every other Yom Tov, which is, that's what's to cook. The only reason why you're not allowed to cook is because you're not allowed to eat. Once you're not allowed to eat, then you're allowed to cook. Hope you enjoyed the pilpul. Have a good Shabbos.